Howdy remarketing fans, and welcome back. In this section we're going to talk about what I call value mapping or list mapping, and it's probably the most important process that you're going to do in this entire remarketing campaign development and creation. You have a very solid framework of the understanding of all the basic remarketing elements. You understand what lists are. You understand what audience segments are. You've learned how to start planning the engagement levels of and determining the engagement levels of specific audiences and specific segments, and you've started to think about how you're going to use those segments in your own remarketing campaigns. In this stage, we're actually going to really plan out the dynamics and the specific configurations of our remarketing campaigns, which lists we want to use, what are the objectives of each given campaign. And it's a very important process because if you get this right, everything you do from here will be easier, it will take less time, and your campaigns, most importantly, will be much more profitable. If you don't complete this process correctly and you kind of rush in to the remarketing setup, and you go into analytics, you go into AdWords or AdRoll, and you start throwing together these audiences, setting bids, and you're not really clear on how you want things set up, you're setting yourself up for less than ideal results because you're not building a strong foundation. So without further delay, let's jump in to the presentation, and I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like, walking you through how I would plan this stage, how I would plan this process for the example for AudioEye, which is the website we just used in the previous video, to start using the website structure to develop those lists. Now we're going to jump in and actually use the lists we created to build out and plan our final remarketing campaigns and to get a really clear sense of what those are going to look like. So let's jump right in. I've built out a table that is going to include a number of the lists that we created in the previous section, but we're not going to use every one of the lists just for the sake of time and just for the sake of efficiency of really just teaching you these core concepts. So I really encourage you to either follow along with your own chart as we go through my chart, or keep this in mind and reference this back later as you continue to build out your own campaigns. So the headers I have in my table, and these might change a little bit, especially the order, is the name of the list, the objective of that list, the rules of that list, the negative lists, and we'll talk about negative lists in a moment, cookie duration, CPC bid, and the actual ad copy or the ad objective. Let's take a look at our first list. So we have all visitors. This all visitors list, like we spoke about, is anybody who came to my website. The objective for the all visitors list, meaning what am I planning to accomplish by serving all visitors list ads, I want them to return to my website, and I want them to ultimately identify their persona or their segment. What does that mean? I want them to come back and say and tell us based on their browsing behavior, are they an educational content candidate, or are they interested in the personal technology solution from AudioEye? Are they looking for an enterprise? They haven't identified themselves yet. So that's the objective of this remarketing list, get them back to the site so they could identify themselves. List rules would be visitors to any page on the site. So that's going to be the actual practical technical implementation of this list. We're going to show you how to, obviously I'm going to walk you through setting that up step by step in the coming chapters. But for now, don't worry about knowing how to actually accomplish creating this rule, and these rules are going to get a little bit more complex, but just know that this is going to be any visitor to any page on the site. Negative lists. Negative lists are an important concept in creating great remarketing audiences because you want to make sure that you sculpt the right ads to the right person. Negative lists are going to become more relevant as we continue through this graph, but I want you to just have a basic idea in mind, and this is coming back to that same concept that we spoke about earlier of combining lists. So we're going to be combining positive lists, which is the list rules, and some negative lists. So for the all visitors list, every other list in this chart is going to be a negative, and you'll get more context, and that'll become clear to you as this chart gets filled out. Cookie duration is going to be 10 days. Simply, the cookie duration is in how long will the cookie expire from the first time you came on the site. So for example, if Deborah came to AudioEye on Monday, 10 days later, if our cookie duration and our browser dropped a cookie on Deborah's browser, 10 days later, this cookie will expire and Deborah will no longer be part of this remarketing audience. That doesn't necessarily mean she won't see remarketing ads. So Deborah might, in the interim, come back to the site and rejoin this list and reset her 10 days from scratch, or she might join another list that has a longer cookie duration. And we'll talk about cookie duration again further as this gets filled out. The reason why I have this list set to a relatively short cookie duration is because it's a pretty generic campaign. It's not a campaign that I want to allocate a lot of budget to. This is the least engaged visitor list out of all the campaigns and out of all the different lists I'm going to have in this remarketing campaign strategy. My CPC bid will be at 20 cents, pretty conservative 20 cents. Once again, these are just numbers that are relevant to AudioEye. You're going to need to figure out your own bid, your own max CPC bid for your remarketing lists. If this is the first time you're creating these lists, if it's the first time you're creating a remarketing campaign, then you're going to want to just basically intuitively pick a CPC bid. I don't know, you could estimate a 1% click-through rate or a 0.05% click-through rate. It really depends. You're going to have to start off with just benchmark bids. If you already have a remarketing campaign and you're now optimizing the results, it's a whole different story. You're going to use your conversion rate, you're going to use your ROI, your return on ad spend, to calculate what your max CPC bid should be. But that's a different topic for a different lecture. Let's talk about ad copy. For the all visitors list, and my objective is to just get people back to the site, I'm going to have a generic features ad copy, overview of the AudioEye product line, different ads that kind of cater to the global AudioEye crowd, talking about how we're a technology leader, so on and so forth. We don't have enough information, remember, about the visitor to really drill down and get more specific. So that's the basic breakdown for my all visitors list. Now let's continue. My second list is, if you remember, we wanted to start targeting visitors. We should start using visitors to describe visitors because this is going to get confusing. The people section on the site, remember, was potential visitors who were interested in AudioEye technology for individuals, for people, not necessarily for businesses, educations, more for individual consumers, learning how to use AudioEye to make their website more, handicapped accessible for other people, for their website visitors. It was a much more business to consumer context. The objective, so the list name, will name it people section plus 2 minutes TOS, time on site. And you can name your lists however you want. Use naming conventions that you're going to remember that will be easy for you to recognize right away. The objective of this list, and this is obviously going to change, it's going to adapt to your business, and this is not necessarily how this will remain. These objectives will always continue to be dynamic and continue to change. But learn more about AudioEye for individuals and to download a resource or submit a form. That's the objective. Ultimately, we want somebody to take a conversion. They've already identified that they are interested in the people section of the site, so we want them to come back now and download a resource or submit a form. The list rules is visitors to the people section URLs, visitors to those pages, plus 2 minutes time on site. And if you're wondering what GA stands for in the parentheses, if you figured it out, it's Google Analytics. 2 minutes time on site as a requirement to be on this list is not something that you could set up in AdWords. It's something that you're going to use Google Analytics for, and you're going to create this audience in Analytics and import that audience into AdWords. I know it sounds exciting, it sounds a little crazy. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. The negative lists for this campaign are converted resource and converted form. You don't see those lists here yet, but they will be here down on the further rows down. We're going to have an audience list, a remarketing list for people who have converted, and a separate list of people who converted by submitting a contact us form, and people who converted by downloading a free resource. We're going to have two separate lists. And I want to have those as negative lists. Why? Now, think about the scenario. It's entirely possible. Let's take Deborah again. Say Deborah came to the site, she went to the people section, and she spent 2 minutes time on site. Great. Her cookie registers her now as part of this second list. And we have these specific ads that are trying to get her to convert. They're trying to get her to come back. So we might have a list promoting a resource, as you see in the ad copy section over here. Say she now went and she actually converted it and downloaded a free resource. She's now on both lists. Her cookie registers her as being part of this people section plus 2 minutes time on site list, and her cookie is going to register her for being on the converted resource in the converted form list. I, as an advertiser, want to specifically advertise to people who downloaded a resource with a more aggressive bid and a different ad copy. So I want for this specific list, I want to say if this person downloaded a resource or submitted a contact form, I don't want that user to be part of that list. I want them to be specifically part of the converted, downloaded a free resource list and get those ads with that level of bid and that cookie duration. So that's kind of the concept. And we're going to circle back to this idea of negative lists momentarily as this chart continues to get filled out. So the next list we're going to have is the business section plus case study view. So anybody who came to the business section, and remember the potential business clients are more profitable to AudioEye than just the people section, and they viewed a case study. So the objective of this list is to generate more business solution interest and for the user to come back and submit a contact form. The rules of this list are simple enough. Visitors who went to the business pages, plus that same visitor went to one of the client success pages, which is where they access the case studies, or what we call the case studies. Negative lists, let's just leave that alone for now. It's going to be the people section, the Ally toolbar list, and both of the converted lists. We'll talk about that in a moment once we kind of fill out the rest of this form and we walk through some more scenarios. A 30-day cookie duration, I want to have a little bit more of an aggressive cookie duration because just like the people section and the business section, this is a longer sales cycle. I want to have these people seeing ads over the course of time. I'm willing to invest more money with a more aggressive campaign. As you see for the business section, I'm going to have a $1.30 bid because these people are more potentially valuable and they take longer to make a decision. These are potential business clients, B2B. They're going to shop around. Promoting top benefits of business solutions to business-minded clients, that's going to be the ad copy or the potential ad copy or one of the ad copies for this campaign. The main idea here is to start really getting a structure. So we've covered the first 3 lists in this remarketing campaign strategy. We're going to pause now and we're going to pick this right up again in the second video. This one is running a little bit longer than I had initially expected, but it's good. We're covering a lot of really good information. We're covering a lot of good ground. In the next video, we're going to finish up the rest of these different audiences. We're going to talk about the negative audience setup, why we have it set up that way, talk a little bit more about the cookie duration, talk a little bit more about the ad copy. But the basic thing to start thinking about is how this is going to apply to your website, to your products, to your services. Once again, this is a super important element. You really should spend the most amount of time doing this planning, processing, development stage, because once you have all this set, everything else is fast. Once you have the technical knowledge to add the tags, add the script, set up the campaigns, that'll just take literally minutes once you have all this set up. This is the time where you really need to, or this is the stage where you really need to put in a lot of thought, a lot of effort, and really kind of digging into the understanding of your customers and your customers' behavior, your website structure, to figure out how you want to segment and set up these remarketing lists to profitably and effectively move these previous website visitors lower and lower in the funnel until they ultimately convert in a way that makes you a good amount of money. So thanks for watching this one. We will pick this right back up in a second on the other side.